UFC 279 just took place last week, but it didn't go down as expected, and its lead-up was certainly not worthy. Apart from the headlining event being charged up, a melee at a press conference threatens to result in disciplinary action for a number of high-profile fighters of the UFC. That's of course up to the Nevada Athletics Commission. We'll be covering that and more in today's video. First up, melee backstage. UFC press events prior to bouts usually get heated. There are often a lot of strong words exchanged, and fighters also get in close proximity to each other in a rage. Most times it's all to hype up the fight, as though there's an actual rivalry that extends beyond the octagon. But sometimes that rivalry is real and the fight is personal. However, even UFC has its regulations, and you can't just go around attacking fighters outside of the arena where the rules of engagement aren't clear. That sort of behavior is considered highly unprofessional and can lead to some major consequences. Now, as a result of some backstage drama that escalated to fisticuffs at a press event for UFC 279, some high-profile fighters and their teams might be facing those consequences. Those involved include headliners Khamzat Chimaev, Kevin Holland, and Nate Diaz. Details are hazy, but the situation was clearly bad enough to warrant UFC President Dana White canceling the press event entirely, after saying the environment was no longer safe. He later confirmed that the catalyst for the entire incident was a confrontation between Chimaev and Holland. The Nevada Athletics Commission, or NAC, is now investigating the incident, and if improper behavior is found to have taken place, they could penalize those that were involved. The chairman of the NAC, Stephen Klubeck, stated that punishment could entail forfeiture, revocation, and suspension of individuals' Nevada fight licenses. Next, the lead-up. It isn't clear what exactly provoked the melee at the press event, but there are certainly some clues. Nate Diaz has been causing a stir in the UFC community since last year, and even more so during this one. He's had just one contract left to his name with the UFC, and he's been eager to get it over and done with, so he can move on to what he believes are greener pastures. However, the UFC had been putting it off for quite some time, until a little while ago when they paired him up with top fighter Khamzat Chimaev, and that was seemingly the end of the drama, with a fight lined up and the only thing left being to build up hype. Unfortunately though, when it came to the weigh-ins, Chimaev missed weight by 7.5 pounds, making him ineligible to fight Diaz less than a week before their fight. That no doubt left Diaz a little sour, as his fight had been pulled out from under him and replaced with something else entirely. Chimaev was rebooked to fight Holland, and Diaz went on to fight Tony Ferguson in a co-headlined UFC event. Chimaev himself might not have been too happy about the rebooking, as Holland doesn't have as much experience as Diaz does in the octagon. That might have contributed to the initial encounter escalating. Moving on to the details from the melee. Though we don't have the full picture as to what went down, several accounts suggest that we're the first to have a rough encounter, which then spread to Diaz and his team. It's alleged that the group then proceeded to throw water bottles at Chimaev, though up until UFC 279 there was no video footage to back up those claims. However, on the day of the event, the UFC and partner broadcaster ESPN released a video of the incident, and it seemed to show Chimaev kicking Holland. A while after the release of the video, Chimaev's coach took to Twitter to corroborate the claims, saying that the Chechen had delivered a boot to Holland's chest. The video also confirmed that Diaz and his team did in fact throw water bottles at him, to which Chimaev can be heard saying that he would take on both fighters. It was a rough scene, with multiple team members holding the fighters back from a major altercation, and the headliners shouting expletives at each other. It's clear why White chose not to go ahead with the conference, since it's hard to imagine those fighters being cordial on a panel together after what had transpired. However, despite being open about the situation to the audience, White was booed on stage. A press event like this is seen as a part of the wider entertainment surrounding the bout, so being unable to witness it is like buying a ticket for a movie that doesn't end up playing. Lastly, the NAC's statement. Press event goers might have felt hard done by the lack of entertainment on display that day, but the fighters involved in the melee could suffer a lot worse for their actions. The NAC statement promised to determine if there was any improper action taken during the day, and if instances were found, they'd take the necessary steps to deliver appropriate disciplinary action. The statement emphasized that though trash trash-talking is a common occurrence and there's nothing wrong with it in the eyes of their legislation, physical altercations discredit the sport of unarmed combat and is therefore unacceptable. That behavior might also expose those involved to civil and criminal liability, not just the legislation of the NAC. It concluded by listing the potential disciplinary actions that might be taken, as we've stated above. Those also include a denial of applications for new applicants, as well as the prevention of future license renewals. If any of these fighters are found to be in breach of the regulations of the NAC, they might find themselves unable to participate in events held in the state of Nevada, greatly inhibiting their careers in the UFC. Only time will tell which of the Backstage Melee participants will actually face consequences for what happened that day. Next, in other news, Theodorou dies at age 34. Elias Theodorou was a former UFC fighter from Canada. Unfortunately, the charismatic athlete passed away last week at the age of 34 after a battle with liver cancer. He was a staunch advocate for athletes being able to use medical marijuana. Not only that, but he also served as a stuntman on occasion, as well as an actor and a model. His career as an athlete in the octagon was something to behold, having won 8 out of his 11 fights as a middleweight in the UFC. He was clearly a winning talent. The problem was that his slow and methodical style in the arena lacked the flair that the UFC wanted to curate. 9 out of his 11 fights had gone to a decision. Though the UFC didn't see too much use for a marathon fighter, the world around saw his talent. Fellow athletes have taken to social media to celebrate Theodorou's life and personality, almost everyone recognizing that he was something special and that his activism went a long way to pushing boundaries. Next, Pimblett submits 10 US Marines. Paddy Pimblett has made a name for himself thanks to incredible displays of skill at UFC fight nights in the UK. However, he's also become notorious for his habit of putting on a ton of weight and then losing it all in between bouts. He might be most famous now for putting on over 20 kilograms in just 2 weeks after his first UFC fight night. This unhealthy cycle has led many to question whether he has a long-term career ahead of him or if things will end in tragedy. But Pimblett isn't dismayed. In a recent intense training drill, he proved that no matter his current physique, he can always bring himself back to peak performance when he wills it. It was a part of a YouTube challenge that saw him take on 10 successive Marines in a grappling fight. He dispatched every single one of them without breaking much of a sweat. After the challenge was done, he was gifted a plaque with the slogan, "Attitude is everything," and a pin indicating his involvement in the exercise. Though it might be a while before we see Pimblett in the octagon again, it's good to know that he still has a fight in him for whenever he does come back. Lastly, UFC in Africa. The UFC is constantly looking to expand its influence around the globe. This year, they made efforts to return to the UK with exciting fight nights that surpassed expectations. They also traveled to France in September for the first time ever to host a fight night in Paris. Now, they're looking to make history once more. Dana White recently said that the promotion was seriously considering hosting an event in Africa. They're currently looking at potential cities and venues to host, so it's likely that this could happen soon. The UFC already has fighters that have African roots which could potentially headline a card in the continent. Options include Israel Adesanya from Nigeria, Francis Ngannou from Cameroon, and Kamaru Usman, who's also from Nigeria. All of these fighters are huge talents that could easily carry an African fight night. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think is responsible for the UFC 279 Melee? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.